Off we go. Fine, got it. Okay, we have a lot of material to cover tonight. Keter Shem, it's very exciting material, but we're going to start with the days after Purim. Okay, the day after Purim. Right exactly in the middle of the Megillah, Mordechai and Esther have an argument. Mordechai says the Jewish people Haman is made a decree to kill all the Jewish people. You have to go into the king. And she says, if I go into the king when I haven't been called, my life is forfeit. Okay, why risk everything? Let's figure out another way. And Mordechai says, if you don't go in, you anyway will be lost, and the Jewish people will be saved from another way. Okay, and anyway, if anybody watched my video, I said that so what did Esther realize? She realized with the queen, a Jewish person, with one of the biggest ministers, Mordechai. How could this thing happen? And she realized it wasn't by the way of nature. It wasn't just something simple. It had to be a decree from heaven. What was the big sin? That the Jewish people ate at the meal of Achashverosh and used the vessels of the Beis Hamikdash. They desecrated. They as though the destruction of the temple hadn't happened. Right? Okay, and so they ate in a negative way. They had to fix that. So what did she do? She told everybody to fast. Okay, not only did they fast, she fasted. That's so counterintuitive, because why did Achashverosh the king choose her? Because he thought she was beautiful, and by fasting, she's not going to be more beautiful. She's actually going against the entire premise of her life. And the answer is that she knew it was a spiritual thing and not a physical thing. That's exactly the middle of the Haggadah of the Megillah, and the turning point of the entire story. Now, all right, anybody watches my video, it was there. I want to say that I'm going to share my birthday. I hope everybody realized my birthday was on Shushan Purim, was on Thursday night and Friday, and Purim and Shushan Purim are very connected. Okay, and something happened to me on Thursday that I want to share with you. Today, I'm not involved in the running of the day-to-day operations in Ascent. Just 1 second. Where is Valerio? 1 second. I'm not involved in the running the day-to-day operations in Ascent. Once I just have to one thing. Yeah. Nope, not here. Okay, life is short and there's no time to worry about it. So okay, so something happened on Purim that really changed my life. Okay, and because I'm the director of Ascent, so the mayor of Tzfat is a city with about 35,000 people. The mayor of Tzfat comes to visit the Rosh Yeshiva, who's been the head of the yeshiva here for longer than Ascent, 45 years. He's a very well-known individual, and because Ascent is also one of the larger institutions and has a lot to do with the city, so I'm also invited to that meeting. So who's there? It's the mayor and the member of the Chabad City Council. His name is Schneer, and the Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Voloshansky, and myself and one of my staff. And I'm telling everybody, I went in there and I had my laundry list. Okay, you know what? Ascent. We're fighting now that we should have less municipal taxes. We want a piece of want the city to give us some land. We're fighting that to get licensing for some of the projects that we're building on. All kinds of things. I had my list. Okay, and when I walk in, I expected that Rabbi Vilshansky would also give his list, and he didn't. He looked straight in the eye of the mayor of Tzfat, and even though Tzfat's a very small city, because of its spiritual background, it has a lot of influence in Israel. In general, what happens in Tzfat is talked about in the entire country. He looks at the mayor and he says that this year is the 120th birthday of the Rebbe. In other words, were the Rebbe alive here in a physical body, then he would be 120 years old this year. And we have to give a gift to the Rebbe on his 120th birthday. And he wasn't talking about a gift for the yeshiva. He was talking about doing something on a city level that's going to transform Tzfat into a holy place. And I want to tell you all, it blew me away because he was for me an example, and it was because it was just before my birthday and the divine providence of it that I'm saying, you can either be there for yourself, or you can be there to transform the world. And that's to some extent what we're going to be talking about today also. Okay. And that's what it says. So I want to say, I hope you're understanding me. I want to say that when Esther accepts the fact that she has to go to the king, and she takes it on completely. She says, I'm prepared to put my life at risk. She says, I'm going to go into the Melech, and the words there are, Loi Kedas. I'm going to go in against Das, not against Das, against intellect. That's not what it means. Against what's acceptable, right? Okay, and that was the message that I received. That a person has to, right? That we're in the days after Purim. The days after Purim, if we want to attach ourselves to the success of Esther, who was the heroine of the entire Megillah, and then what do we have to do? We have to think lo kedas. We have to break out of our normal ways of looking. We have to say, even if it's not acceptable, we're going to do it anyway. Okay. Even if the entire world does it one way, we're going to go break out of that, and we're going to push ahead. Okay, that's what it means. Loi kedas. Okay, I'm not going to think in the box. I'm going to specifically think out of the box, and that's the power of Purim and the powers of the day after Purim, right? And that's what we have to think about. Okay, just like the Rosh Yeshiva didn't just think about, you know what? If he gets the mayor to do something like mind-blowing, like, I don't know, like make a campaign for the whole city about the Rebbe's 120th birthday, everybody, the mayor he puts on tefillin publicly. His picture's taken every week on Friday. He goes to one of the tefillin, the Chabad tefillin stands, and he puts on tefillin. What if the mayor would say, I want every single person in Tzfat, man and adult child, to put on tefillin? It would be unbelievable. The whole country would be going crazy, okay? You know what? There's no doubt in my mind that if the mayor would come through on something like that, then all the other things that the rabbi needed, he would get them also, okay? Okay, you know why? Because when you think out of the box, when you're doing things for the needs of the entire city, of the entire country, of the entire world, all the rules change. And that's what it means that Esther was going to go in lo kedas, right? Not according to the regular way. Okay, she's going to, because when you're going big, it's not about going big. When you're going not for yourself, for the sake of others, all the rules change. The limitations that hold others back don't apply to you. Okay, so and that's what we're supposed to think about in the days after Purim. Second, Seder. Okay, so let's go. Okay, look inside. All right, was that clear? Any questions? No questions. Okay. Hey, we should tell a joke.
Oh. Well, I had a question just about Mordechai. Just I'm not sure if it's a tangent, so you don't have to answer it if it's off topic. Allowing a Jewish niece, somebody he considered to be his daughter, to be a concubine, to sleep with a Gentile and to have children potentially from a Gentile. Doesn't seem to have a problem with that.
Well, because she was okay. It's brought in all the commentaries. It's brought. I have to look it up to quote you exactly. But because the entire Jewish people were at stake, yes, she. In other words, there's three things that you're supposed to be killed and not succumb. It's murder, avodah zarah, and gilui, murder and idol worship, right? And gilui arayos. Gilui arayos is illicit sexuality. Okay, but that's on a personal level, right? If that's the only way to save the entire Jewish people.
No, that's not my question. That's before the whole Megillah, the whole story unfolded. Esther was brought by Mordechai, or I don't know, by the king,
right.
but
100%.
Not when Mordechai asked Esther to go.
I understand. I understand. Okay. If I'm okay, I remember asking the question, and the answer that I was given that Mordechai was a Navi, was a prophet, and he knew in advance, he could see the events that were going to happen, that his niece, in some opinions say his wife, okay, had to be in the palace. But I have to look it up. I hear the question exactly, and I have to look it up. Okay, you're asking on the whole premise of the Megillah. How does it work? Okay, and I have to look it up. And thank you for asking an excellent question. Okay, all right. But back to any other questions on topic.
Rabbi, this is Ivan. I think you said a very interesting thing about having the mayor declare as a request that everyone put on tefillin. I think what should accompany that is, when you put on tefillin, you have a lot of prayers. However, if he would say, at least do the first two paragraphs of the Shema,
right?
Which only
right, absolutely, yeah, sure.
And when you read the English part, which I do, and thank you, Rabbi. When I put on tefillin with you in the car here in New York, I've not missed today, so I thank you. But the first two paragraphs really says everything about us. About mitzvahs, about being respectful. It says everything, and teaching our children. It really does. So when you would even ask them to do that, say the caveat, just start with the first two paragraphs of the Shema, and that's it. In my
Absolutely.
opinion.
I'm. You know what? It just occurred to me now, and I'm going to tomorrow. I'm going to push it forward, B'ezrat Hashem. Even tonight, after our for bringing it together, I'm going to go and work on it. Okay, B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, so here we as a group, does everybody agree? We need something for women also. Every woman should light candles, right? One Shabbos, every man should put on tefillin, okay, and we'll transform the world, B'ezrat Hashem. But the point was, the inspiration for me was, again, we have this choice between living in our 6 feet perimeter from worrying about ourselves, okay, and for taking care of ourselves, or we have the ability also to think about, to take care of other people, and to worry about others. And that's what was the mind-blowing thing. Here was a situation was so patently advantageous to work on something personal, and he didn't do it. He took advantage of it for the sake of one of the Rebbe's campaigns, of the Rebbe's birthday, but even more important, of creating a vehicle for a Jewish experience for an entire city. Okay, and that's what touched me, and that's what I hope to hold on to for this year. I hope to be for myself, there'll be a whole year of thinking out of the box, of thinking for the sake of others, of lo kedas, okay, of not going according to the standards, the acceptable standards. Okay, just said. 1 second. I have 2 pages of notes. Okay, this piece today is really about it ostensibly it's talking about prayer, ostensibly, but really not. Really, it's talking about whether a person is someone who makes things happen, right, or a person who reacts to things that happen, right? Who do we want to be? Do we want to be a person that transforms the world, or we don't want to react to other people's attempts to transform the world? Okay, even on just on a prayer basis, are you reading the words, fulfilling the mitzvah by reading the words? Are you reading the words with intention? When I say Ashrei Yosher V'Secha, happy are those who sit in your house, I know what those words mean. The first is acceptable. The second is a mitzvah. But when you daven, are you speaking to God? Is every line, every word speaking to God? That's what it's supposed to be. Okay, and a person who's speaking to God, right, they're transforming the world. Okay, so let's look inside. Just keep that in mind, though. Are you a reactor or an actor? Are you somebody that can make things happen, or somebody that things happen to? Okay, so what does he say? He says, "Mei Ba'al Shem Tov," from the Ba'al Shem Tov, ki yesh tzorich lehischazek techila kodem atfila, kedei sheyieh lo moichen lehispal b'mim machshava zora kol ponim. He says there, it's very interesting. There's direct quotes from the Ba'al Shem Tov. There are only two books. There's Keter Shem Tov, and I'm going to show it to you. Maybe three books. I'm sorry. Keter Shem Tov. They have it actually in English. Here he is. It's called Tzvas Haribash. Okay, the Testament of the Ba'al Shem Tov. That's one book. The book that we're learning today is Keter Shem Tov, right here. Okay, Keter Shem Tov. There's a third book called Sefer Ba'al Shem Tov, which is direct quotes of the Ba'al Shem Tov, broken up according to the portions of the week. Each are beautiful. Each has its own place. Okay, so it's interesting. Sometimes one book contradicts the other. One book contradicts the other. Okay, because why? They were different things that the Ba'al Shem Tov said at different times. So here we're talking about that it's a necessity. Yes, tzorich lehitchazek, to strengthen yourself. Techila, before you pray. Kodem atfila. Why? That you should have moichin. What's this moichin business? Moichin is brains. It's not just about it's 1 second. Just they say said something very interesting. Let me see if I can find it. 1 second. Take off my glasses. 1 second. The spell of the machshavas. It's moichin. It's not just about clarity. It's not just about thinking clearly. It's about the idea of being able to, he says, to really sink into the words. I think we talked about it before. There are different ways to daven. There are different techniques that Judaism brings. For instance, there are some people, again, focus on this thing of speaking to God, that every word I should say, I can actually picture God standing in front of me. Okay, it's not easy to keep focused on every word of the prayer. Okay, but just like the offerings, right? The davening that we do is in the place of the offerings that were in the temple, and just like a person who, a priest who, if he has the wrong thought when he's bringing the offering, when he's shechting the animal, when he's slaughtering it, ritually slaughtering it, or when he's preparing the animal to be burned on the altar, if he has an extraneous thought, it's called pigul. Lo yotza, the whole sacrifice, everything externally could have been perfect, but if he has a negative thought, the whole thing is blown away. Okay, and there are some people that hold it. Not some people. It's true about davening also. Everybody on their level, but if a person has even an extraneous thought, then the davening is lower in its level. It's lower in its power. It's not the same, And so that's what it means. Moichen. Moichen is the ability to literally to focus, to sink into the davening, and to be there, to live it. Okay, to experience it as talking to God, and that's what he says. That sometimes, in order to get to that place, you have to strengthen yourself first to have proper intellect, that you're able to pray without machshava zoros, without negative thoughts, or even on a higher level, that you should be able to pray with dveikus, that you're attached to God all the time. And what does he say? It's some people can do it by saying psalms before they daven. A lot of Hasidim learn Hasidut before they daven. Okay, 10 minutes, a half an hour. Gera Hasidim, they get up at 4 o'clock. I've said it before. The inner circle around the Ger Rebbe get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. In other words, to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you have to go to bed 11 o'clock at night. They give up on their evening day after day. They're going to bed 10, 11 o'clock. Get up at 4 a.m. They're in the base measures. They're in the study hall by 5. And for 2 hours, they study Talmud. They study Talmud, right, for 2 hours, and only at 7 o'clock do they daven. All right, everybody in their different way, okay? But I was going to say that then in Tzvos Ribash, in this book, it says the opposite. It says you shouldn't do it, because the main thing is to be able to pray the verses of praise and the Shema and the Shemona Esrei with full kavanah. And if you're going to exhaust yourself, one second. If you're going to exhaust yourself, my battery just dying. If you're going to exhaust yourself by one second. This always happens. Silly. Plug this in. Plug this in. Okay. All right. If you're going to exhaust yourself before you pray, then what have you accomplished? Okay, then you're not going to be able to say the verses of praise, the psalms that are in the davening, or the Shema, or the Shemona Esrei with the content. Okay, either way. Okay, but here he's saying that yes, you have to start off hitchazek techila. You have to strengthen yourself before, that you should have moichen, that you should have proper brain space, the way to dig deep into the prayers. Lispal b'li machshavos, that you should be able to push away all the negative thoughts, at least, or on a higher level, dveikus, where you're every single word you're saying it like you're talking to God Almighty. Okay, v'hu al yedei mizmorim or Torah. This is through saying psalms, reading the psalms. Reading the psalms. In Hebrew, if you understand the words, or in English, you don't understand the words. They're very, very powerful. Each one is a poem, is a prose about connecting to God in different ways, or studying Torah, like we said, or Torah. Shiyitasik techila, that you should be involved. Umitoch kak, through this, who omed lehispal mitoch divrei Torah, that you're going through using this Torah and the things. Sheyesh lo moichen, that helps you to have this ability to concentrate. Okay. The yesh she'im yarba mizran. There's some people, like we said, Torah, they're going to spend a lot of time. They're going to get up at 4 a.m. They're going to push and go crazy and study and focus, and then they're going to daven. Some people are not made like that, right? Some people don't have that strength. The yesh she'im yarba mizran Torah. There's some people that if they do a lot of tilim or Torah study, lo yellow moichen tefillah. This is what it says in the Talmud. It's a Gemara Menachos. Echad hamarbe ve'echad hamam itu bilvad sheyikaben libo l'shamayim sheyeh lo moichen betefillah v'lakachim shavim. What does this mean? It's such an interesting. It's a Mishnah at the end of Menachos. Menachos is all about a mincha is an offering. The whole tractate of Menachos is about laws about offerings. Okay, and the very last Mishnah, again, we spoke about it before. Mishnah are the, we're not going to do it now. Mishnah is the direct text of the oral tradition that the Jewish people that Moses got from God at Mount Sinai, okay, and he transferred it to Aaron, to Yeshua, and to the elders, and they transferred it to all of the Jewish people. We have a written Torah, the 5 books of Moses, and we have an oral tradition, a specifically Jewish commentary on the Torah, and the main oral tradition it was transcribed 2,000 years ago, and it's called Mishnah, which means teachings. Okay, so the last Mishnah in Menachos says what we just read here. So what's it talking about? It's actually talking about the actual Mishnah says that it says about an animal offering. Right. It says Nemar ba'oilus behema, when you give a animal sacrifice like a cow or a goat or a sheep. What does it say? It says isha reach nichoch. It says a fire that's a pleasant fragrance, right? 1 second. Wait, One second. Okay, so there's some people would bring a cow, right? Not a cow, a steer, could weigh a ton. Okay, some people would bring a bird as an offering. Some people would bring a meal offering, some flour and oil, flour and oil, okay, as an offering that was cooked in a fry pan, okay, right? And it says by each one, reach nichoch, a pleasing odor, a pleasing fragrance for Hashem. And so what does the Mishnah learn from that? The Mishnah learns, it says one person who brings a lot of offerings or a big offering, and one person who brings a tiny offering, echad amar ve'echad amamit, right? Somebody who brings a lot, somebody who brings a little, right? What? Ubelvad, just as long as yekaven libo l'shamayim, just as long as a person's intention is for the sake of heaven. So he's the Chazal turned that towards prayer. And it's actually an amazing thing here he's saying that it's better to daven less with more intention than more with less intention. If a person knows that they're going to not be able to hold their head for all of the davening, it's actually encouraging a person to say less but with more intention, because the whole thing is that a person shouldn't connect to God through his prayer. Okay. Now, so am I suggesting that a person not say all the words? Okay. Yeah. If a person knows that they can't say all the words of the prayer with their full intention, then they should say less. Okay. It could be that they should be saying it maybe in English instead of in Hebrew, and it's easier to concentrate. It could be that they have to focus on different parts and say it with full intention and read the rest more quickly. Okay. Everybody to speak to their spiritual advisor, but the point that he's saying is clear, right? Whether you say a lot or you say a little, the main thing is that a person should be the whole time be focused. Okay, right. Echad amarba ve'echad amamit u'bovad u'mavad sheliba l'kavan l'shem shemayim. Okay. Now, because they're both equal, whether you say a lot or say a little, if a person's intention is to connect to God, then it's in heaven's eyes, it's all the same. Okay, now we're going to go into the meat of this section. 1 second. Now, for us, now, so all what we're just talking about now is a person who's in charge of themselves. Okay, Moshe or Luna or Ron, Daniel, Valeria, Dr. Herman, okay, Dara, Galaxy, Ken Margolis, Ken, Lisetta, Ivan, and Moshe Levi. Okay, we were talking now a person who takes charge of their spiritual life, who you know where you want to go, and you decide how to get there. Okay, you're not a person. You're a person that's acting. They're not reacting. You're, and it's not just about davening. It's about anything, right? You can be a follower, or you can be a leader. Even a person that doesn't know everything can also be a leader, right? A person, again, because we just said, what's the rule? Echad hamarba ve'echad hamamit, right? Ubavad shaliba l'shem shemayim, v'kavna l'shem shemayim. Somebody who does more, somebody who does less, somebody who, right, who knows more, somebody who knows less. But the main thing is that a person should intend their heart to heaven. Okay, that person is an actor. He's a doer. He's transforming the world. Okay, so now, right, that's what he's saying now. Look in the words. It says, so we're talking about a person who does all types of schemes. If you fail to plan to fail. Okay, you're making all types of schemes. His to arouse yourself in prayer. That person is called a zocher. Okay, a male. Now all the ladies here, hold on for a minute. What does that mean that a person who's a proactive person is called a male? Okay, so the whole Torah, there's a paradigm. The paradigm of God, who's the groom, and the Jewish people are the bride. God is the male, the giver, okay, and the Jewish people are the bride, the receiver. Okay, and so that applies all over Torah. Every single human person is whether male or female. When it comes to God, they're a receiver. They're a female. Okay, they're a female. We are all God's bride. Okay, and so absolutely everybody has both these aspects of male and female in them, of being proactive, that we have the ability to be godlike. I think I said it a few weeks ago. They said if somebody a misnagid, a person who was against Chassidut, asked a great Chasidic Rebbe, he asked him, he wanted to trick him. He asked him, can God make another God? If God can do anything, then can God make another God? So what was the answer? Anybody remember? The answer is yes. God made a Jewish person. A Jewish person is like God. A Jewish person has the ability to act in the world like God created the world. Okay, thank you very much, Moshe. Moshe says, read Rashi's translation of King Solomon, of the Shir Shirim, and it explains this idea abstractly. Thank you very much. Okay, so everybody has male and female in. So it says when a person is proactive, and he's using prayer as the paradigm, but it's talking about anything. Okay, it's talking about anything involved in transforming our lives, transforming our families, transforming our workplace, transforming the world. Everybody, okay, right, can have that male aspect in them, and that's called Mayin Duchrin, right? Male waters, right? Coming from transformation from below to above. Okay, right? Masha Ein Kain, what's not the case? Oh boy. Kishiyesh lefamim shema'orim oso milamayla. Right. Sometimes, sometimes a person is proactive. Some person is ready to transform the world. Sometimes, it's when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Sometimes it says, I can't stand this anymore. I must do something about it right now. Okay, and you push ahead, right? And one person becomes 2, and 2 become 5, and 5 become 20, and you do something. Sometimes, right? It says, sometimes it's not the person themselves. Sometimes God is the one that has to lift him up. Okay, and how do we experience that? Like one way is through a person. All of a sudden, he speaks here about a person who wants to cry. He wants to cry. Okay, right? They feel all of a sudden they feel very vulnerable. They want to pray. They want God to. They want to attach themselves to God because. And he says, why does that happen, right? But so a person who wants to cry, if that's compared to a woman who's a receiver, who's feminine, okay, who female waters, right. So instead of being proactive, instead of starting off the morning and saying, I'm going to learn for 15 minutes. I'm going to take some Jewish ideas. I'm going to meditate about those ideas before I pray, okay, and then I'm going to fly the davening. I'm going to take it and fly. I'm going to meditate, right? You know, we talked about it before, but the whole prayer is a ladder. Sulam mutzav artzev rosha magir shemaima, like in Jacob's dream, that the feet of the ladder is below, and the head of the ladder is in heaven. Okay, and the from morning blessings until Baruch She'amar is the hay of God's name, the last letter. And for the Baruch She'amar, all the verses of praise, that's the Vav of God's name, the third letter of God's name. And Shema and its blessings is the hay of God's name, the second letter. And the Shmona Esrei is the Yud of God's name. And you're literally, you because you took your davening under control and you meditated a little bit and you pushed all the distractions aside and you fly through it, literally climbing step after step until you get to the palace of the king. And when you get to the Shemona Esrei, you walk 3 steps back out of your space and 3 steps forward into the palace of the king, and you're literally there with the king, talking to the king. That's a person who's that's called Mayim Duchrin, right? Masculine waters. That's a person who's proactive, right? But then there's some people that they pray. You know why? They feel weak, and they want to connect to God out of weakness. And he says here, even what's his crying that's called feminine? Okay, there's nothing wrong with crying. We'll talk about it in a minute. Female waters. For us, chas v'sholom tfilos l'chata'ah. Chata'ah means a sin. But it doesn't mean a sin to say. It says it doesn't have its full powerful. It has even a negative aspect to it, because instead of attaching yourself to God from a place of power, a person to attach himself to God from a place of weakness. Sheyeshalov. And why is he crying? So he says Sheyeshalov din in harbe, because his v'mazlo chazi, that his what's that he has, what's happening is that he senses that there's the heavenly court is judging him. That's what it means, dinim harbe. There's judgments, there's many judgments against him. And even though he can't see it with his physical eyes, mazle chazi, his mazel sees it. What's mazel? Have we spoken about mazel before? What's this idea of mazel? You say to somebody mazel tov, okay? I'm sure we talked about it before, because it's one of the things I knew. Levi, you're fidgeting. What is mazel, Levi? What is it? We say you're something nice happened. You say to somebody mazel tov. What does that mean, mazel tov? Okay, mazel, does it mean good luck? Are we a bunch of bus drivers? No offense if anybody's a bus driver, right? That you say that. Ken, are you a bus driver? I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes.
That you're a holy bus driver. You know the story about the bus driver and the rabbi got to heaven, and the bus driver got a higher place, and the rabbi complained, and the heavenly court said to the bus driver, "You tell them why," because the bus driver said, "Rabbi, when you would talk, people would fall asleep, and when I would drive, people would pray." Maybe you're the only one that hadn't heard the joke before. Okay. You're a holy bus driver, but are we so that we think that mazel tov means good luck? No. What is the mazel? There's different ways to understand mazel. Mazel is a constellation. Constellations are physical manifestations of spiritual ministers in heaven that each person has, a spiritual minister, that the divinity goes through that spiritual minister to come into the body. That's one opinion, okay? And that's why it says that there's 70 languages, 70 nations, there's 70 mazalas, 70 different ministers. Each minister is the conduit for energy to that particular land. Each person has their own minister, okay? In Kabbalah, it says that just like way that we have 5 parts of the soul, there are 3 parts in the body. One part connects us to heaven, one part's in heaven all the time. The 2 higher parts of the soul, that's what's called mazel. Because even if the lower parts of my soul, nefesh, ruach, and the neshama, can't see the spiritual truth, the higher levels of my soul can see it. Right? And sometimes the person just cries, or he feels weak and vulnerable, or something other external thing happens to make him feel weak and vulnerable. You know, we realize that we made an error someplace, right? Or somebody points out a negative trait in us, okay? Or all of a sudden we're not in control anymore. We feel, right, that the world is controlling us, that we're pushed into a little box, okay, that we can't get out. Okay, so that's what, right, that's when a person cries. Now, okay, anybody has been with us for 6 months, right? They know that during Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, I told you what it says in the readings of the Arizal, that anybody who doesn't cry during the 10 days of tshuva, the Arizal says that there could be that there's a blemish in their soul. That's exactly what he's discussing here. During Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, for the 10 days of tshuva, that's what's going on. A person is being judged, and our souls feel it, right? And we might cry, but what are you supposed to do with that crying? You're supposed to take it and turn it over. You're supposed to say, "Wow, I have to, from feeling weak and incapable, I have to transform that to feel active and powerful." Okay, and that's what's supposed to happen during our holidays. And in fact, that's what's supposed to happen all the time, that a person feels that this crying, this feminine aspect, that he's only a receiver, he can't transform the world. Okay, and that's what he says. Look back inside. When a person cries, his prayer is not as valuable. It leans towards a sin, even because he's, instead of connecting to God, instead of using all of his strength to connect to God, I want. It doesn't matter if God is wearing a t-shirt or 15,000 winter parkers. I want to hug him, right? Okay, I want to hug him, right? You know, it doesn't matter how many garments I have to push through, right? When I do a mitzvah, when I put on tefillin, or a woman lights Shabbos candles, then that's divinity, but it's in a physical thing. So just like a king is wearing a coat, right? That's like eating kosher. Just like a God wearing 2 coats. That's like honoring my parents. Okay, and I have to hug God, even though he's wearing all these garments. Okay, I don't want to be a receiver. I want to connect to God. Okay, so that's what he says. That a person's prayer shouldn't become out of weakness. Shouldn't become even like leaning towards a sin, because like we said, because she is of Din and Harbe. He's mazel, his constellation, the interface between this lower part of the soul and God in heaven. He feels something's amiss. Okay, and he says, I hope I'm clear. Okay, right? That the Ba'al Shem Tov is shouting at us that a Jewish person has to be a person that's proactive, right? If a person feels weak and incapable, that is our evil inclination trying to disarm us, trying to fool us, trying to take away our potential in the world. And so he says, what do we do then? What do we do? Okay, it says, what's the repair? The person has to regret the bezachro shelo is ora mi'atzmo. He has to, when he feels weak, he has to say, "Wow, that is my Yetzer Hara beating me up." Okay, giving me a hard time, right? That I have to regret that I didn't take charge of this spiritual situation, that I didn't push forward. Okay, that I had to accept the Ora Milamayla. I had to accept God making me cry, or some other negative thing that upset me and made me feel weak. Right? Those are all things to tell me that I'm not going in the right direction. And what God wants from me is to take control, not to lose control, is to push ahead, not to feel weak. Okay. Now listen, look at these words, guys. It says, "V'yibche ala bechia rishon." You have to cry on the first crying. Moshe, am I being clear? You understand what I'm saying? Right? You have to cry that you cried before. When you cried, now you're crying that before I cried out of weakness. You have to cry out of strength. That all I want is to use the power that God gave me to connect to Him. That's all I want. Look, I think I wrote it in English. You have to cry again on the first tears. That you cried on your own because of weakness. And then you transform the Mayan Nukvin, the feminine waters, the Mayan Duchrin, to masculine waters, and you become a male, a mashpia, a person who on the first level transform your life. That's the first thing. And when you want to change the world, what do you have to start with? No, everybody. When you want to change the world, you have to start with
yourself.
That's what he's saying here. Learn how to take charge of yourself. And the battleground that we start each day is with prayer. When a person learns how to be proactive in his prayer, not a weak crybaby, okay, but a strong mashpia, influencer. I think there's even a word like that with social marketing or something like that, social media. You want to become a Jewish spiritual influencer, first in yourself, on your immediate surroundings, and then all around you. I tell you the truth, I have so much more to talk about. Let's finish the text. There's a lot more to say. To explain. There's more things to understand. And God should atone for us. What does that mean? What is he saying there? He's saying that unfortunately, most of the time we're fooling ourselves. Most of the time, people are think that their weakness is a spiritual level, and it's not. That's how he started. He started, whether a lot or a little, as long as a person's the kaven, right? The Shem Shemaim, the kaven. What was the words exactly? The kaven libo l'shamayim. That a person's heart is focused on heaven. Okay, that a person's heart is focused that I want to connect to God Almighty. Okay, not from a place of weakness, of crying, of I don't want to be punished, of I don't want to lose out. No, from a place of let's figure out a present for the Rebbe's 120th birthday. Let's run and transform the world. Okay, you know what? There was a part here that I didn't get completely. I tell you the truth, because when I first started this, I tell you, it's 8 minutes to 10. I want to end on time. I know it's important, but I have a few. I have a lot of things I wanted to say. So I was talking to one of my spiritual advisors. His name is Asher Geshavitz. He's a very special person. He's much younger than me. He's probably 15 years younger than I am. Yeah, but very, very special. And we were discussing it, and he started going. He said that what's this crying? What can you compare it to? Okay, the crying that we want to see during Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, because there is judgments against us. but that's supposed to, even Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur was to transform it from weakness into power. But how alachas kama v'kama, much more so during the rest of the year, God doesn't want weakness. God wants each and every person, male and woman, male and female, to push ahead, to take that you're like, each of you is like God Almighty, to transform the world around you. Okay, that's what God wants from us, right? And weakness is just a thing. So he said to me a few stories about there was a very famous mashpia. Mashpia is a spiritual advisor who passed away. I learned in Kfar Chabad in 1975. No, 1979. I was in Kfar Chabad, right? And he had just passed away a few years before. His name was Shlomo Chaim Kesselman. So Shlomo Kesselman was an incredibly gifted person. I you know what? There's books and books are written about him. I'm not going to talk about it now. But if you can imagine a person that inspired thousands and thousands of people to become powerful people, people that controlled their, that themselves were influencers, that they weren't just receivers. Okay, and once he went to the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, and the Rebbe smiled at him, and so Shlomo Chaim didn't know what to do, so he smiled back, and the Rebbe said to him, Shlomo Chaim, when I smile at you, you should cry. What does that story mean? So I was sitting there. I felt silly. I had no idea what he was saying. And so I asked Asher, explain to me, what do you mean? Right? And he said, he gave me another example, that there was a person, he said he didn't want to tell me who it was, a person that we both know, that we both knew 30 years ago. And he was from a Hasidic family, but he started letting his hair grow and being more worldly. But he would go to the Rebbe all the time. And every time he would come to the Rebbe would smile at him. Well, there were thousands of people that the Rebbe didn't smile at. Why was the Rebbe smiling at him? Because he was in a place of weakness. And the Rebbe wanted to use his smile to reach out to him. Okay? And that's what the Rebbe was saying to Shlomo Chaim. If I'm smiling at you, if I feel that you need me to reach out to you, okay, then you should be crying. Right? When the Rebbe would see other people as his partners, as his soldiers, as his shluchim, okay, he wouldn't smile at them. He would talk business. He would give them commands to do. It says about the Rebbe's 70th birthday. I just had my 69th birthday. I'm in my 70th year. When the Rebbe had his 70th birthday, he announced he wanted 71 new institutions. Okay, there's a whole story about one of the heads of one of the biggest yeshivas at that time, Litvish yeshivas in New York, Torah V'das, that one of the Rosh Yeshivas, the head of the yeshiva, again, a Rosh Yeshiva is the de facto spiritual leader of communities. Okay, one of the Rosh Yeshivas came to the Rebbe's Farbrengen on his 70th birthday when he heard him announce that he wanted 71 new institutions. Okay, and when he went back to his yeshiva, people gave him a hard time. What? You're a Litvish head of a yeshiva. What are you going to hear the Lubavitcher Rebbe? What do you think he's Mashiach? That's why you're going there? And this rabbi said, I don't know if the Rebbe's Mashiach or not, but I know he's a king. By the way, we say Melech Mashiach. Mashiach is the king of the Jewish people. So the man said, I don't know if he's Mashiach, but he's certainly a king. Why? Because anybody that can tell his Chasidim to make 71 new institutions and they jump and do it, that person is a king. Okay. How did that come up? Oh, so we're saying about smiling. When the Rebbe would smile at you, right, it was because he had to feels you're far away, has to bring you in, right? When a person cries, it's not that they're closer to God. The exception is the high holidays. when a person cries, it's not that closer to God. They're coming from a place of weakness. So what is the Ba'al Shem Tov saying? You have to cry. Moshe, are you listening to me? Ron, this is for you. You have to cry that you cried. You have to feel bad that you felt weak, right? You have to push it. A person who's not Valerio, are you listening to me? A person has to be. That's what he's saying here. We have to push ahead. I want to. Okay. I have a really incredible story from
We try. It's not so easy.
It's what. Yeah. Well, let's work on it. Did I tell the story about? We're not gonna. Okay, I saw 3 stories from the Rebbe about this thing about taking charge. There was a family. Mendel Vector. Mendel Vector is a famous thing. Again, you're talking about 40 years ago. Okay. But he's a Lubavitch, a Chabad Chassid. He lives in what's it called? Kiryat Malachi. It's south of Tel Aviv. But he was a Satmar Chassid. He learned Chasidus with Yoel Khan. He became enamored with Chabad Chasidus. He was still a Satmar Chassid, and he started teaching Satmar Chasidus and Chabad Chasidus in the Satmar community. And people didn't like it, and they threatened him. Terrible things happened. I don't want to say what it is. In the end, he and his wife had to literally, in the middle of the night, pack up all their stuff, and they had to move to Eretz Yisrael because their lives were in danger. That bad things happened. Not appropriate things. Things that I don't think would happen today. Things happened then. Okay. And so the Rebbe, and he became a teacher. And his wife was a teacher. They first, again, the whole process, he started teaching, they got threats, he lost his job, she lost her job, then they beat him up once and shaved off his pay. It was terrible. And he had to escape to Israel. So when they went to Israel, the Rebbe asked one of his secretaries to call up Mrs. Vector and to say that teachers of children know things sometimes that the parents don't even know, because you're with them every day in challenging situations. And usually a teacher passes on that information to the next teacher, the teacher of the next, who takes the children in the next year. But because you had to leave unexpectedly, right, there wasn't that normal transition. And the Rebbe said, it's very important that you should, even how you were treated, you should still call up the other teacher and to give over on each child what you know that they shouldn't lose out. Think about that. Here were people that were saying that a person who wanted just to study Chabad Hasidus in their community, he was a unwanted, persona non grata. We don't want you. We don't want you. We're going to threaten you. And the Rebbe cared so much about those children that he says to her that she should be in touch with the other teacher. There was another story. The Rebbe once in the wintertime was having personal audiences with people. The Rebbe would do it sometimes 2 nights a week or 3 nights a week. And the Rebbe had a bad cough. And so one of the secretaries brings in a cup of hot tea for the Rebbe, like 11 o'clock at night. And the personal audiences, or what they call it yechidus, but personal meetings with people, ended at about 3 o'clock in the morning. The secretary was, as the custom, came in to see if there was any other instructions from the Rebbe, and he sees the cup of tea, not a cold cup of tea on the table, not, Rebbe didn't drink it. They asked Rebbe, how come he didn't? Maybe he asked him, was there a problem with the tea? He thought maybe he had done something wrong. And the Rebbe said, how could I drink the tea, right, and waste the time of the people that came to see me? Okay. There's a third story. The third story was it's a famous story of Edmund Safra. Edmund Safra was one of the wealthiest men in the world. Okay. And he came to the Rebbe once. You're talking about in the Chaya Baruch and I got married in 79. So you're talking about in the early 80s, there was a period when there wasn't yechidus at all. The Rebbe wasn't having any personal audiences at all. Okay, and Chaya Baruch and I just got in the last year of personal audiences. We were there twice, once the first year and the second year once before, just after we got married, and one a year after we got married. And then there was a few years when there was no personal audiences, and then was the period of dollars, when the Rebbe would see thousands of people every week, and you could ask the Rebbe questions online, and so okay. But there was a period when there was no yechidus. Am I being clear? Are you all following me? Hello? Are you sleeping, everybody? Dara, are you asleep?
No way.
Okay. So Edwin Safra came in those years, the early 80s, and he goes into the office and he says, I'm Edwin Safra, and I need a personal audience with the Rebbe. And they said to him, we're sorry, we can't give you a personal audience with the Rebbe. He's not seeing anybody. Okay. And he said, I'm telling you, I'm Edwin Safra, and I will give Lubavitch $2 million. $2 million was a lot more worth then than it's worth now, 40 years ago. Okay, I'll give Lubavitch $2 million if the Rebbe see me. And they said, the Rebbe's not seeing anybody. And he explained to them, I'm deathly ill. They said, I have a terrible illness. I need to see the Rebbe. So they didn't have a choice. They went into the Rebbe to ask the Rebbe if he would see him. And what did the Rebbe say? They said that thousands of people come to see the Crown Heights every year. They use their last pennies to buy plane tickets just to come here, and I won't see them. How can I see another person? Because he's offering me money. And Mr. Safra, it was so despoiled. Despoiled is it's something between touched and amazed. I don't know how to say it exactly. Between touched and amazed. He was so touched and so amazed, somewhere in between those places of what the Rebbe said, that the next day he waited with something could be 50 other people in the hallway between the Rebbe's office and the study hall. He waited like everybody else, and the Rebbe came to him and gave him a blessing. Right? And I don't know all the details, but the fact is that he didn't pass away from illness. He passed away a different way. It's not a happy way, especially, but not from illness, Baruch Hashem. Okay, so those are three stories about the Rebbe, about how he cared about the world. He didn't just care about his community, and that's the kind of attitude that he's talking about here. Okay, we don't want the Rebbe smiling at us. We don't want to cry and to ride the wave of our tears. We want to be proactive. When a person learns to be proactive in one part of his life, he'll be able to transform it to the rest of the part of his life. Again, I'm saying for the fifth time, what were the words here? The person has to cry that he cried before. Right? The tikkun, the repair of our weakness is to feel bad that we were weak, and that transforms the feminine waters into masculine waters. That transforms a receiver attitude into a giver, a influencer attitude. When a person starts in their personal life, then he can take it and transform, right, the rest of his life. Okay, and it's not just true for us. When a child sees that their parent is a doer and not just a receiver, they understand that doing is what's important in this world, not just receiving. Okay, so that's the blessing for this week. Everybody should be a doer. Okay, it happens to each of us. We have moments of weakness. We should cry that we cried, right? And beg Hashem for the power to push ahead. Okay, say that. Thank you. 1 second. Let me just. I have this unbelievable. Okay, I think we can stop the recording now. Time is. Oh, it's late. Reba.